G'day you mob, Pete here, and this is another episode of Aussie English, the number one place for anyone and everyone wanting to learn Australian English. So today I have a Goss episode for you where I sit down with my old man, my father, Ian Smisson, and we talk about the week's news, whether locally down under here in Australia or non-locally overseas in other parts of the world. Okay, and we sometimes also talk about whatever comes to mind, right? If we can think of something interesting to share with you guys related to us or Australia, we also talk about that in the Goss. So these episodes are specifically designed to try and give you content about many different topics where we're obviously speaking in English and there are multiple people having a natural and spontaneous conversation in English. So it is particularly good to improve your listening skills. In order to complement that though, I really recommend that you join the podcast membership or the academy membership at aussieenglish.com.au, where you will get access to the full transcripts of these episodes, the PDFs, the downloads, and you can also use the online PDF reader to read and listen at the same time. Okay, so if you really want to improve your listening skills fast, get the transcript, listen and read at the same time, keep practicing, and that is the quickest way to level up your English. Anyway, I've been rabbiting on a bit. I've been talking a bit. Let's just get into this episode, guys. Smack the bird, and let's get into it. Dad.
Pete.
Primary school. Schooling in Australia.
Yes.
How's it changed over the years?
It's been a while since I've been.
Why does our schooling system suck?
Like every schooling system sucks except Finland.
The Finnish, yeah. That's it. And isn't it crazy that they have like the least number of hours per week, contact hours for students?
They don't start school until they're 8.
Yeah.
Like 8 till 19 is school.
Is that it? Yeah, and it's probably also hours of the day as well, I imagine. They probably have much fewer, shorter periods, But what was it like going to school when you were a kid, and has that changed much, do you think, over the years? Although you obviously haven't gone to school again more recently.
No, but I was a teacher for 10 years in the 80s and the 90s, and then
you're now
you were at
your
school, and our grandkids are at school, well, 2 of them are. I don't think much has changed. Like, you think about your son's experience at primary school, I don't believe that's much different from what you experienced.
Besides the technology in the room.
But 30 years, same number of kids, similar sort of rooms, similar sort of day-to-day process.
Activities and everything,
You go back 30 years before that when I started primary school.
And you guys were like using rocks. And
exactly.
Painting on cave walls.
Exactly. But no, we started writing with, we weren't using slates, but you go back 30 years before that, where they were. We were using small blackboards, chalkboards, and a piece of chalk to start writing.
Okay.
Because paper was expensive.
Wow, okay.
And practice writing, rub it off, start again. But we had 45 kids in the classroom, and we all sat at little pairs of desks, rows of these paired desks. And so the idea of doing sort of communal work just didn't happen. It was you sit down, shut up, and do as you're told.
Here's the individual tasks
was what
you guys have.
What
Don't
it was
look
like.
at each other.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could talk to the person next to you and maybe the person behind you, but there wasn't a bunch of, Noah, your son's experience now at school will be, here's 4 or 5 kids sitting around a table and they're working on a project. The project might be just a sheet of arithmetic to do, but they're working on it together.
When they get moved around
and they get shuffled around.
Yeah.
And so I sat next to the same person for half a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if there was never a spare desk, but if somebody was away, you might go, please, sir, please, can I move over to sit next to Johnny today?
Billy here fast.
No, you can't, because all your stuff is in your desk.
Yeah.
Like you opened the desk lid would flip up and you'd have your pens and pencils and books and stuff in there. And
you also had corporal punishment.
I certainly did, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got 2 beatings when I was at primary school.
What happened?
One was deserved. I was just being cheeky to a teacher, and she objected.
Cheeky?
I know. Can you imagine, listeners? Yeah. I was just giving cheek. It was 4th grade teacher. I pitied her. I was giving cheek to her one day. It was friendly. It was rude, but it wasn't malicious.
What was it? Do you remember specifically?
No, I don't. But it
you?
was just taking the piss, basically. And she'd put up with it for long enough, and she said she's had enough.
Enough.
But and the she part of this is important, because she didn't dish out the corporal punishment. She sent me to one of the senior teachers, the male senior teachers in the school, to go and tell him that I needed a belting.
Doesn't that sort of defeat the purpose if it's that delayed? Like, I need you to go to a different classroom.
Yeah. Well,
10 minutes
it's
later from now,
long-term
you get hit
punishment.
again,
It's not stopping what you were doing now.
Yeah.
It's that you can go and stand outside Mr. Steele's class
and then hold your hand out.
and then tell him that Miss Ackley has sent you there to get a smack on the hand because you were misbehaving.
And so how was it done? What was used?
Well, in his case, it was a cane.
And what's a cane?
A cane, like probably 70 or 80 centimetres long piece of cane.
Like a small round
stick, basically. Yeah.
And would they have a real go at you?
No.
Would they really try and...
Oh, they hit you hard enough to make it seriously hurt.
But they wouldn't try and beat the shit
But it wasn't,
out of you.
it wasn't back in the 19th century. It was, bend over and drop your pants and we'll give you 10 of the best across the backside.
10 of the best.
Which is basically just lashings.
You won't be sitting down again for
exactly.
a week.
So it wasn't that, but it was definitely intended to cause pain.
Yeah.
That's what corporal punishment's there for.
Yeah.
It's the threat, the fear of it happening.
Yeah.
And then B, it's the pain that is supposed to be a deterrent.
How ever present was that at school? Was that something that, as a school student, you were freaking out about at all times?
Oh, look, there was one teacher at the school who used to be, he was just cruel and malicious.
He just gave it out like candy.
Exactly. And
everyone line up. Good morning,
and he didn't use
students.
the cane. He used a small, it was only probably 30 or 40 centimetres long, and it was thicker and heavier.
Great.
And he called it the thumper.
God.
So you'd go to Mr. Sweeney, he'll be dead by now, so I can say his name. You go to Mr. Sweeney's room to get the thumper.
Jeez. So otherwise, what? He'd be 100 or so years old, right?
He'd be in his 90s if he was still
He's going to
alive.
listen to this episode.
He's going to listen to this episode and go, "Fuck you, you've outed me."
I'll give you another
He'd go, "I've still got the thumper."
You kept it?
No, I got the thumper once, and that was not deserved. That was when...
him just being a piece of shit.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You wonder how many teachers would have been like, "Oh, sweet, I get to beat kids." You know?
I know.
Finally, it's like you hear those stories about policemen who like abusing authority, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's here or America or wherever, and that those jobs attract those people, and you wonder back then how many teachers were just like, "Oh, sweet, I'll do that."
It's funny though, because it's one of those things where you go, it was the form of education that required it.
Why is
Because if you've got 45 kids in a room, and I can remember my grade 1 teacher, so after prep, my grade 1 teacher, she was first year out, so back in those days to be a teacher at primary school, you had to it was a 2-year diploma. There's no degree or anything, so she was probably 20 years old, and she's put in a classroom with 45 6-year-olds.
Yeah, bloody hell.
And sit down, shut up and do as you're told.
For context, my son's class has 17 kids in it.
Yeah.
So less than half.
Yeah. Prep is usually less than 20 and then it'll go to 25 later on in the school.
Yeah, it's just
maximum class size of 25 in state schools now. So, so I think it's that sort of, sit down, shut up and do as you're told, because there's no other way of doing it.
Yeah.
The classrooms are the same size as the room that your kids are in now, exactly the same size.
So just
There was no space to do anything.
Chained to a desk, effectively.
You're chained to a desk. I remember my grade 3 teacher had the golden rule. The golden rule was stay in your seat.
Just sit down, shut the fuck up, and don't move.
Don't move.
Yeah, don't talk, don't breathe, don't do anything. Close your eyes.
But the golden rule, the biggest one, was don't leave your seat.
Yeah, jeez. I need to go to the toilet, miss. Do it in your pants.
Do it in your pants. Don't leave your seat. If you can do it without leaving your seat, how about it?
Do you think it affected you? Or other kids?
Look, I'm sure there were kids. I actually enjoyed school.
I thought you were going to say enjoyed being hit by the teachers.
No, I didn't enjoy being hit by the teachers.
I actually liked it.
Yeah, well, there were some kids that did.
Really?
They'd sort of do it again. Doesn't hurt. They'd just bait them.
Have you... what was it? There was a story in the book The Fatal Shore. Have you read that?
Yes.
A long time
ago.
It's
a bit predated me, but just.
Yeah, so this book is about the colonisation of Australia and the convict stories effectively coming out and over here. And there were a few of those types of prisoners where they had these convicts that were, from Great Britain. They had stolen a loaf of bread or whatever and been, given 7 years transportation over here to Australia, which was a life sentence effectively. And they would get lashings and shit for, whatever it was. Usually trivial stuff. Often not, you're not going to murder someone and get lashes. They're probably just going to hang you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you do something that they didn't like.
Well, they hang you for stealing from the stores.
Yeah, but there was this terrible dude. I can't remember if it was on Norfolk Island. It might have been there, where it was being run by this tyrant type prisoner warden or whatever, and he would just give out 100 lashes. And there was one guy who I think just kept saying, like, he was in court or something, and he's like, you need to pipe down, you need to stop talking, or I'm going to give you another 100 lashes. And he's just, he's effectively just said, go fuck yourself. And he's like, here's another 100. And he's like, nice, go fuck yourself. And here's another 100. And he ends up getting like 450. And I don't know if he died or if he nearly died, but yeah, it was such a hellhole where he was. That
there were certainly
stories
there were stories of Norfolk Island of people wanting to be hanged, punished.
Well,
the
interesting story, and that was in the Fatal Shore as well, the book, where they talked about that, and they had organised murder gangs where you would draw straws. The long straw would be the murderer, the short straw would be the murderee, the victim. And they did that intentionally because when the murder trial went forward, they had to be taken back to Sydney.
Yes.
And they would not be punished like they were at the prison. They would just chill out and go to the court case for a few months on ship or whatever, not have to do anything. And so they were like, anything is better than living here under the conditions.
Yeah, dying is better, and getting shipped back to Sydney for further punishment.
But he talks about a specific situation where they have like 10 of these convicts in a circle, and I think they got like a bit of metal railway spike or something that they sharpened, and they're like, here's the weapon, the duty of the day is to draw straws and decide who dies and who kills, whatever. And they do it, and the guy who's organising the whole thing is the one who ends up getting murdered or whatever, or saying, oh well, guess it's me. And then he's like, just do it quick, do it right. And the guy stabs him in the stomach. And it takes him 2 days to die. He's just like, God damn it.
Smack me over the head with
it. Just like, God damn it, dude. But yeah, they all end up being taken back, and all the guys watching are witnesses, so they get to go as well. So they go on this little holiday, I guess, back to Sydney for the trial of the murder of one of them themselves to avoid having to do the work at the penal colony there.
Yes. Anyway. So it wasn't quite like that at primary school when I was there. It wasn't quite that bad.
We're in circles drawing straws.
But yeah, it was very different.
Do you think there was any positive to corporal punishment at all, or do you think there was only negative?
Look, as I said, it was not so much positive, but it was understandable.
Yeah.
That there had to be in the context there had to be a threat of crowd control.
Yeah.
It's really half their job was crowd control.
So do you think
you couldn't make a lesson entertaining and interesting? I mean, I spent 10 years as a high school teacher, a little bit different. You're dealing with teenagers.
Yeah.
So behavioural issues are a bigger problem, but they're easier to entertain in that sense because you can give them intellectual tasks to do.
Yeah.
But the reading, writing and arithmetic stuff, the 3 hours stuff, rote learning stuff was just crowd control.
I know, boring shit. I remember those. Here, I'm going to write all this stuff up on the board,
copy it down.
And you're like, are you really sure this is an effective way to learn?
Yeah.
I can do this without concentrating,
Exactly. Yeah.
But do you think that when the corporal punishment was removed, which would have been, I imagine, just after your primary school years, was it? Maybe a bit later?
No, it was after high school. There was corporal punishment at high school. It was much more difficult to do. Yeah.
Why? Because you guys were bigger.
Well, when you're dealing with, in the case of boys, and girls, but girls very rarely got corporal punishment, it was a highly sexist thing. Only the male teachers dished it out, and only the boys ever got it.
Yeah. Imagine what it would have been like if the male teachers were dishing it out to the girls.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That would have been a cry. Like, that would have been in the news.
Yes, but it was it's very different saying to a 7-year-old, hold your hand out and I'm going to smack you with a cane, to doing that to a 17-year-old who's standing there going, no, you're not.
Yeah. Do it.
I dare you to try.
Yeah. Have fun.
Yeah. And there have been a lot of kids that I went to high school with that most teachers wouldn't have tackled them.
Yeah.
Even at not 17, even at 13, 14.
Yeah.
Big kids that have grown up quickly. Corporal punishment was different. It was still around, and people did get a belting every now and then at high school, but it was usually by then it was the deputy principal or the PE teacher's job
Oh, really? PE teacher, what? Because they were usually fit.
Fit and strong, and kids weren't going to tackle them,
Yeah.
And a lot of our PE teachers were VFL at the time, footballers, so they were sort of worshipped.
Do you think the whole sort of setup of classes started changing because corporal punishment was removed, and they no longer had that threat there and they had to do something about concentrating?
I don't know, because I think it's a correlation.
Or vice versa.
But I think the education changed in the 70s, really. 70s and early 80s. It had changed in the 60s theoretically. A lot of the changes that came in the 70s and the 80s in education systems, not the system hasn't changed in 200 years, but the approach to teaching in a classroom and curriculum and stuff was much more collaborative learning and stuff came in. And that then changed. And people realised that you can't teach effectively with 45 kids in a room. You've got to reduce that. So student to teacher numbers changed, which meant crowd control was less of a problem. The curriculum was more interesting, so crowd control was less of a problem. More one-on-one time, and so I think a lot of that sort of changed simultaneously. I don't think it was right. We're taking away corporal punishment, and so everything will get better. Or everything gets better. We don't need corporal punishment. The two things just happened in parallel.
No, I was just wondering if it was one of those things that was used to control kids. You're sort of like, well, did they work out that we need to just change the makeup of the classroom in order to control it better, and we don't need the physical violence?
Teacher-student numbers was the big thing that did it.
So what do you think the problem is with our education system? Because I know there is that story of like it was set up the way that it is. But it was set up that way to rote learn all the stuff that you would need to know to work in a factory.
Until you were 12 years old.
Yeah. And why have we kept that way of teaching worldwide, pretty
much,
right?
I mentioned in what will possibly be a previous episode or a future episode, one we have just recorded, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Our entire infrastructure is built around that, effectively a agricultural becoming industrial 18th, 19th century model of kids going to school. And that the reason that we have holidays over summer is because people wanted farm workers, they wanted shop workers, they wanted...
you had to go home
you had to go home to the... You didn't want to be sitting in school. It wasn't that 40 weeks a year was the appropriate amount of schooling. It just... we needed kids at home. We no longer need kids at home. I'm sure you find it a pain in the arse, to have kids at home during the day when you work at home. But if you don't work at home, you're going to have somebody at home to look after your kids. So it became institutionalised childminding as well. And so all of that model is just impossible to undo. We've done a pretty good job of changing curriculum structure and modes of teaching, but the physical thing of having 25 kids in a classroom for 5 or 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for 40 weeks a year is ridiculous. There has to be better ways, and there have been better ways. There have been experiments done in the 70s, ideal way of teaching. Funnily enough, they were always looked at as alternative schools, and it was always the alternative kids who went to those schools,
or the alternative parents who sent their alternative kids.
Well, exactly. Or the kids who just couldn't succeed in the typical structure of a school ended up going to. There was a couple of them around Melbourne when I was a high school student, and then a university student. There were a couple of those schools where they were teaching in ways that I think is ideal. Of you get a teacher or two teachers for 20 kids, and those two teachers and those 20 kids learn stuff together for a year. And they cover the curriculum the same way, but they don't sit down and go, right, for this 48-minute session, we're going to do arithmetic or algebra. For the next one, we're going to read English literature. For the next one, we're going to do art or whatever. It was all project-based learning. We're going to do this project. All right, we're going to build a garden shed, or we're going to build a vegetable garden. What do we need to know in order to build a vegetable garden? How big is it going to be? What materials are we going to need? How are we going to construct it? Where there's your algebra and your geometry and everything else goes in. And we do the woodworking skills and the building 100%. Skills and all of that stuff. All gets done by the same group of people together, and it's all facilitated together. That's the way to learn.
Why haven't we moved towards that?
It's expensive.
Yeah.
You got to have effectively a teacher-student ratio of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
It's expensive, and no government is going to go, you know what we're going to do? We're going to treble the education budget for forever, because you can't go back forever. And we've got hundreds of billions of dollars worth of infrastructure in the country that is built in classrooms that fit 25 kids sitting around tables in a room. We don't have we're all going to be outside for 3 weeks doing this outdoor project.
Do you think, though, that you would end up reaping more money back as a result of changing the education system? And that's the difficult thing that the government would have to work out, because I'm sure if there was an outline of this is how much money back you will get on your investment into changing the education curriculum, they would. But I guess the hard part is you don't know. You would assume there's going to be an improvement in outcome, but you don't know if it's going to be worth...
The improvement in outcome should just be, how happy are kids at school.
Yeah, and just how happy are people in society.
And then if you're happy at school, you're going to be happy in most of your life, I reckon. That's,
it is sad. Like, looking back, I recently had one of my students who's a doctor pretty much say, yeah, you've definitely got ADHD, dude. And I was sort of like, yeah, pretty sure you're right. Thinking about how obsessive I get about things and how I find it so hard to concentrate. And looking back, I do think about just how schooling for me was always pretty difficult in terms of like concentrating and wanting to, I don't know, it was, if I was interested and passionate about the subject, it was easy. And if I didn't give a shit, if I wasn't interested, it was really hard.
Yeah.
So this is like maths, any of those sort of things where I'm like, there's no kind of direct interaction. It's not about animals. It's not science-based. It's just numbers on a page, and I'm sort of not tickled by this at all, even though I'm sure there would be teachers out there who could make it fun in their own ways, and setting up situations like you talk about where if you had done activities that involve building things, making things, if you did like a maths class and you were doing parabolic arcs or whatever, and you were like, well, let's go outside and throw a ball and we'll use gravity to talk about, all these sort of, you work out what it is. That would have been so much more entertaining and fun than just sit down and here are some sums to complete. But it's funny how much it seems like that is such a common problem now with boys. Like, we have this whole ADHD thing that's gone bananas in recent years and was even, sort of a big thing when I was younger. But it's like, is it really a diagnosis, or is that just how boys are sort of programmed by and large to be much more physical and wanting to do stuff? And I keep thinking that too with my son, because he's always so fucking full of beans and wanting to do shit all the time. And you're just like, can't you just sit still and concentrate? And you think that's so unnatural. Doing that is so unnatural.
It is.
Why the fuck would he want to sit still and do nothing?
Do nothing.
Yes.
Or do what he's told to do that he doesn't want to do. That's even worse than doing nothing.
Yeah, part of me is like, the only reason I want that is because my life is stressful and I have to work or do these other things.
Exactly. He's not going to run around the house and kill himself by running into a door.
Exactly, yeah. But it's, looking back, you're like, I wonder how much we sort of stigmatized or problematized these kids and said ADHD is this big problem we need to solve with Ritalin or whatever drugs, when really it was just the education system is sort of unreasonable in the way that it's set up.
And it's all spectrum. There would be some kids who just like being quiet and sitting and doing what they're told.
I was always so envious of those, like the kids that were... And that, ironically, that's the other side of it, where people would be like, oh, maybe they've got, autism or they're on the spectrum.
Everybody's on the spectrum.
Yeah,
that's why it's a spectrum.
Exactly. But they would say that about those types of kids who had insane concentration skills. And I was always envious of those kids. I'm like, fuck, I wish I had your discipline and passion and interest in just being able to carry out a task that you apply yourself to no matter what the task is. And there were always those sorts of kids at school. And they would always get such good marks. But then it would always blow my mind at how dumb they were with plenty of other like common sense type things and surviving in the world, or just being really uncoordinated with sports or whatever. And you're just like, it seems unfair that schooling is pretty much just based on being able to remember things and then, complete exams.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And I'm like, there is a whole group of people who seem to be unfairly advantaged in this area.
Pre-programmed to succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. And that seems to be not a problem for them.
I was one of them.
Yeah, well, good at that. Yeah, I know.
Give me a task, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
I might not like it, but I'll just do it.
Yeah. It's just nuts. Anyway. So you reckon Noah's got it better these days, or you think it's much of the same in terms of how it's set up?
I think more kids enjoy school these days than did when I was a teacher and
Yeah.
when I was a student. I think
Yeah.
that's, it's just different. But
And do you think it's going to improve? Is there much that we can do to change it? Or do you
we
think
just have to
it's
spend more money on it.
Yeah.
We've got to assume more money. And that's not just school, it's universities. It's the
TAFE.
same thing.
Yeah.
We've got to spend money on it. And it's investing in the country. And the trouble is that we're in this sort of ridiculous cycle of trying to apply 19th century Keynesian economics to 21st century social problems like education, of saying, well, and you asked the question, will we make our money back? That's not the point. Governments are a cost centre. They're not profit centre. They're not making money.
Yeah.
This is about, will the country be better?
Yeah. Well, I guess that could be a way of seeing return on investment, though.
Yes.
Right? Are you actually improving things?
Yeah,
or
but
are you
then
just throwing money away?
But then, this is sort of slightly off the topic, but when you get this, in the case of federal politics, a 3 years or less cycle of elections, we have this sort of stupid thing of everything that they do, they're accountable for. Mostly, they're never accountable for it in the end because the election cycle happens so quickly.
Yeah.
That there are never these long-term things. It's like, in order to change the education system, there's got to be a 20-year plan.
Yeah.
Which government's going to put their hand up and say, I'm going to spend $1 trillion over the next 20 years fixing education. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Well, everybody
You're just
complains
wasting
about
money.
it.
Vote
You're just
'em out.
wasting money. Vote them out. Done.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the downside of democracy, right? It's an incredibly bad way to run a country, but it's the best we got.
Yeah. Well, benign
saddest
dictatorship is always the best form of government, but the benign part is optional.
Wow,
As soon as
that's
you
the
create a
sad part,
dictatorship, you go from Singapore to North Korea.
Well, it's almost like one of those things of, what is it, like getting sick. Your body has to be fighting it off all the time. The virus has to win once.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want a benign dictatorship, you have to constantly be fighting off fuckheads who want to take over the country and enrich themselves. And they only have to win once to completely destroy the place.
Yes.
And again, no pointing out any other countries at the moment in the throes of this kind of issue. USA.
Yeah.
But yeah, so wow. Cool. Well, hopefully that was a fun conversation, guys. Hopefully you enjoy that. But
All right.
we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.